So I want to run through some great yoga poses or modifications of yoga poses to help stretch the neck and shoulders. If you are like me, you spend time hunched over the computer, hello blogging, and just in general, I know personally I tend to carry a lot of tension in my shoulders and my neck. I've got these little knots here that my massage therapist can never get out. So having some great stretches for the shoulders and neck is so important. And so some of these will be yoga poses. Some are a little bit different, more of a stretch than a yoga pose, but it's still very good for loosening up those muscles. And one thing that I like to start out with when I'm trying to stretch out my neck, my shoulders, that sort of thing, is just a simple head stretch. So what I'll do is bend my neck to the side and then just lay my hand on top of my head to provide weight. So I'm not pulling down with my arm, but I'm just letting the weight of my hand and my arm gently press my head to the side. And that's helping to stretch out the muscles and tendons in the back of my neck. And in any of these poses, you of course want to do the same thing on the other side. So again, letting the opposite ear come to your shoulder and then letting your head just rest on top, your hand rest on top of your head, and the weight of your hand, the weight of your arm helps pull your head to the side. So that's a nice, easy, gentle stretch that you could even do while you're at a desk. And in fact, a lot of these poses you could do while sitting at a desk. Another great shoulder opener is eagle arms. So eagle pose, Garudasana, there's a leg variation of it, but for opening up the shoulders, the arm variation is wonderful. So even if you have tight shoulders, you could just do something like a bear hug, which is what, if you're trying eagle pose and you can't get into the full arms, that's a great way to open your shoulders. And so if your shoulders are very tight, just start with something like this where you're trying to get your elbows to stack and you're reaching for opposite shoulder blades with opposite hands. If you have a little bit more flexibility, try wrapping your arms around each other so your palms meet in front of you, and then you keep your elbows at shoulder height. So the more you press your arms forward, the more it stretches through the muscles in the shoulders. And you can even feel a slightly different stretch if you move your arms out down a little bit further from you and then keep your elbows at 90. It's just a slightly different stretch, so you can kind of play around with things, especially if you have a tightness in a certain spot kind of around your shoulder blades. Play around with things until you find the right stretch that feels right in your body. And then of course, switch sides, other arm under, and again, press your elbows up and away from you, which helps open the shoulders. Another nice arm variation that's used in a full yoga pose is cow face pose. And again, this one is you need to have a lot of flexibility in your arms, but there are variations you could do. So you could take one arm where you take an arm overhead and then reach for your shoulder blade with that hand. If you're flexible, you can reach the other arm up underneath and grab the hands. If you're working on flexibility, you can take either a yoga strap or even a long towel, like a hand towel, between your hands. And then as you work on flexibility, you just inch your hands closer until finally your hands can meet behind you. And so that's another variation of a nice shoulder opener that, again, if your shoulders are super tight, just start with bringing a hand overhead. That will help you open. You can start, again, by bringing the other hand behind your back and then gradually work on getting your hands to meet using something like a strap, a towel, whatever you have handy that you can kind of cinch, walk your hands together as your shoulders open. Again, making sure to practice that for an equal amount of time on both sides. Make sure you're breathing. Using deep inhales and exhales will actually help you release your muscles a little bit better. So those are some nice seated ones that even those are variations that you could do at your desk. I do want to show you one more that's not quite desk worthy, but it's one of my very favorite shoulder openers, and that the English name that I use for it is thread the needle. Some people call like a reclining pigeon a thread the needle, so I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to start in a tabletop position, and I'll walk my hands forward. I'm going to take, in this case, my right arm, slide it under this hole under my left armpit, and then I'm going to walk myself through so that my right shoulder is in contact with the ground. And the more you pull your arm through, the more you pull your bottom arm through, the more you'll feel the stretch through the shoulder. So this is a very big shoulder opener. If you have super tight shoulders, I would stay with one of the other poses I just showed. But that's a wonderful, wonderful way to open up the back of the shoulder. And then to open through the chest, any sort of yoga poses that are a heart opener will help open the shoulders in a different way. So you could even take a bind, interlacing your hands beneath or behind your back, and then fold forward, bringing your hands over your head. Any version of a forward fold you could do that with, whether it's a simple forward fold with your feet hip width apart and parallel. You could bring your legs wide, coming into a prasarita, or even something like a pyramid pose. You can take that bind, and as you bend over, you let your hands fall over your head, and that's a great way to open up the shoulders in the opposite direction, just to help engage and give you that bigger range of motion.